Hi, I'm Reid. I'm the creator of Reid's Ginger Brews. We use tons of fresh ginger roots, spices, fruit juices, and honey to make my ginger brews. Reid's Ginger Brews have been a top natural soda for years. People seem to love it.
I'm a huge ginger ale fan, but like,
yeah, no, this is better because it's
this
real.
Has got a kick.
It's just like a pop.
The ginger is real. That's good stuff.
Try Reid's Ginger Brews. You'll never drink another ginger ale again. Cheers.
Hi, I'm Cabby Borders. You are watching Imagination TV. If you like what you're watching and want more, check out myimaginationtv.com. The site is filled with my free-to-watch videos and articles. Also, you can purchase and download audios, videos, and ebooks by the authors and speakers you were just watching. Our website gives you the best on-demand access to the world's most fascinating motivators, producers, educators, and authors. So check it out. See you after the break.
Imagine having the opportunity to step into the mind of the late great Napoleon Hill. Hello everybody, we're right here at the headquarters of the Napoleon Hill Foundation with the CEO himself, Don Green, who's going to give us a private behind-the-scenes tour, a journey so to speak, of what it was like to walk a day in this great man's shoes. First of all, thanks for letting us take a look, and I gotta say, there's amazing things around here, and I was looking around the shelves and I happened to find this. A Think and Grow Rich book, but more importantly, it's one autographed by the man himself. I guess you don't have too many of these laying around, do you?
We got a few of them. He signed these. As you can see, it's still got the advertising piece in it. It was from the archives. Hill died in 1970, so he signed a bunch of them before he passed away. I think it's interesting about him is that people don't realize, but his name was actually Oliver Napoleon Hill. And he did his first writings as Oliver, even when he went to work for Bob Taylor. And he dropped the Oliver and just started going by Napoleon Hill. By the time he published his first magazines in 1919, he was strictly going as just Napoleon Hill.
These little blue books right here, would you share with everyone what those are?
Yeah. When he was working in Atlanta, Georgia in human resources for a company called Lee Torno, he worked for them because they were trying to unionize. They were having personnel problems and they hired him in human resources. He wrote a little books, 17 of them, on the principles of success, and he refers to them in his writings as mental dynamite.
Now, one of the greatest releases that the Foundation's put out in its generation is Outwitting the Devil. I mean, it's been an international success story with Sharon Lecter, but I guess this is the original manuscript that it came from.
That's it.
So this is what he actually typed with his hands.
Manual typewriter.
Wow, one finger at a time, like probably the way I do it, huh?
No L.B. Smith typewriter.
Absolutely amazing. This must be priceless. Well, I gotta tell you, when I was going through a lot of the different gems you have here, this has got to be my all-time favorite. In fact, I think I might even sneak this one out when I get out of here. This right here is one of the Think and Grow Rich editions where they were making some changes to it, as you told me, and he actually went through and made his personal notes of what could be left in and what should be left out. I mean, this is just absolutely a priceless gem.
That's the reason that the 37 edition is about 100 pages more than the book it's traditionally published today, though we publish it in both current and the 37 edition. That was the book that was edited personally by Hill to get the edition that we have today.
Yeah, I'd say this. You have a lot of priceless things around here, but this has got to be, in my opinion, the greatest one you've got.
Hill founded the Napoleon Hill Foundation in 1962. He's 79 years old, and for the public out there that don't know, Hill left all the books to the foundation, and there's stories out there that Hill died broke. He wrote the material but didn't do it. Here's a guy who had his ups and downs, but when he died, his stuff went to Annie Lou, except for the books worth a fortune. They went to the foundation because he wanted a nonprofit set up. He wasn't very active because I said he was 79 years old. But I have Mrs. Hill's will. She had more than $1 million in cash, and she never worked. So it all come from Hill, and she had a lot of other assets, real estate, stocks, and so forth. So no, he didn't die broke.
One of the greatest things that you do, Don, is you're an avid note taker. In fact, I guarantee in your top pocket, you got a 3x5 index card so you can remember who you spoke to and what was said. What do you do with all that content?
I accumulate them, especially if the fact is, I think that it's someone that I will be contacting again later, and it's just a refresher, and I can refer back to what was said and so forth, and it just comes in very nice as a follow-up.
we've been out on a family field trip, so to speak. We saw incredible things, Don. Now, most people don't know this, but he's got an abundance of material. You said he started writing at, what, 13 years old?
13.
And then he stopped writing at what age?
Well, about 84 is active. He lived to be 87, but he had some health problems. But he actually published one book, You Can Work Your Own Miracles. It was published a year after he died. And by the way, it's a long time ago surpassed 1 million sales in English alone.
That's amazing. And what I loved about it is we got to go to the storage facility. And you said there was quite a few of these, but boy, we did some digging in there, and I could not believe what we discovered. Imagine feeling like a kid in a candy store. Oh my, we just opened up a storage facility, the archive, so to speak, of Napoleon Hill Foundation, and we have no idea what's inside. Don, just show us what goodies you got for us.
Well, let's see. This is real from in Hollywood, California. It's real #2.
Wow, look at that. Acme Film Laboratories. It's like the Wile E. Coyote or something like that. Over here, you also have amazing items. Right here, you've got cassette tape, Napoleon Hill Selling You, the original audio version of it. What do you do when you just stumble across these things? I mean, it just must be amazing.
We continuously take the old films and the old tapes and convert them to CDs or DVDs for just to preserve them. Because like Hill had a radio program during World War II when he left Georgia and went to Hollywood, California. He had a program, a Sunday afternoon program with Warner Brothers, where people could call in and get questions, and we have those on audio.
All I know is going back here, you've got boxes and boxes, cases and cases of nothing but golden gems inside. Can't wait to do a little bit of digging. I think I'm gonna have to take my jacket off for this one. I can't believe it, that freeway marker that you helped erect in the honor and the legacy of Napoleon Hill. Will you tell us about it?
Yeah, Greg, it's one of my goals to get the Virginia State Historical Society to erect a marker in Hill's name. It's just great for him to be recognized. I know he was the first individual to be recognized in Wise County, and I believe he's the only author to be recognized in the state of Virginia.
Wow, absolutely amazing. And I gotta tell you, it looked fantastic. It's all the cars passing by. I wonder how many pull over and really take a look.
It's on US 23 North as you leave Wise.
You can't miss it. Also, we took a field trip to Pound, a little town called Pound. And what people might not know is that this is where Napoleon Hill was actually born.
Yes, he was born in a little one-room log cabin.
Wow.
And very primitive. The stone fireplace served as both cooking and heating. Very primitive.
And also there was a monument constructed for him in his name, in his honor, with some other elite people, so much so that you commissioned a mural to be made. What made you do that?
Well, I just thought it was an honor for him. There had been some done. I heard some of the ladies in the Historical Society mention it, and it just seemed like the thing to do.
Well, I gotta tell you, it turned out fantastic. It really did. And we also had a chance to go on a little field trip to the schoolhouse. Could you tell us about the schoolhouse?
The schoolhouse is up on what we call Laurel Grove. And at that time, school wasn't mandatory. We had the first schools in 1875. One room. Most of the teachers had very limited amount of education because at that time, boys went to work and girls got married. And there was a little emphasis put on education.
Now, I understand that Napoleon Hill started writing when he was 13 years old. Do you think he got his education, majority of it, from that little structure?
Yeah, I think so. His stepmother was an educated person. She was a widow of a high school principal, and her dad was a doctor. She traded his gun at the age 13 for a typewriter and taught him how to type, and he started typing little stories up, news events, and he once said when there wasn't any news, he made some news up.
I love it. And then we had a chance to go to one of his icons' property, General Ayres. Now, I love this story because he wanted to surround himself with the most powerful people who are getting the results that he wanted for himself. So he actually volunteered to work for free, basically being an apprentice. What'd you make of that?
And I know he picked him because he was no doubt the richest man in the county. This was a guy that was buying 10,000 acres of land at one time, and he wanted to go for him because of his wealth, and he wrote him a letter offering to work for him for free. He wanted him to learn on his way, not just have someone paying him. He wanted to learn why some people are successful and others were not, and that's what he spent his lifetime defining.
Now, let's talk about where we ended up off our journey today, over at the cemetery, and we looked at some of the tombstones. Who did we have an opportunity to go visit?
Well, the first one was his mother. You know, his mother died before she was 25 years old. Hill had not had his 8th birthday. You know, it had to be a tragedy, but he said it actually turned into a blessing, because about 1 year later, his dad married a widow woman who was educated, and she took a liking to him and mentored him. And he said later about his stepmother, almost the identical thing that Lincoln said about his stepmother. He said, anything I ever am or aspire to be, I owe to that dear woman. She always had faith in him. And then we visited the grave of his father, who was a local dentist, also his brother Paul, and his stepmother.
I just think it's really neat that you are keeping that legacy alive, Don. I mean, it's absolutely amazing that somebody would take it their personal responsibility and duty to make sure that this legacy lives on. I mean, it's fabulous. And here's what I love. We get to go to the next room, your library, so to speak, and take a little look around. I want to say thanks again for giving us this opportunity to have a little sneak peek into the day in the life of Napoleon Hill. I know there's a lot of versions of Think and Grow Rich. In fact, it's public domain, yet there's only one official Think and Grow Rich version from the Napoleon Hill Foundation. And I gotta say, it's really neat that you've also had it done in many different languages around the world. Right here's a collection of some of them. Give us an example.
Here's one done in China.
Holy smokes, look at this right here. I mean, J.B. Hill, is that J.B.?
That's J.B.
This is Napoleon Hill's grandson, J.B. Hill. It's good to see you. I got a question for you.
Yeah.
When you were a kid, weren't you given a copy of Think and Grow Rich by your grandfather?
Yeah, but it wasn't the Chinese edition.
You could actually read it.
Yeah. He actually handed it to me. He put it in my hands. And in Greenville, South Carolina, my parents had taken me up to meet my granddad. And as we were leaving, he came down to the car. He was wearing a white shirt, no coat, no tie. First time I've ever seen him without a coat and tie. And he handed me the book and said, read it.
Well, later on in life, I understand you actually started not only reading the book, but you started applying the principles into your own personal life.
Well, I read it that year. It didn't mean anything to me, but later, at a time when I needed the book, I saw it at the Piggly Wiggly in Jacksonville, North Carolina, in a checkout stand, and I picked the book up and took it home and read it. I read it twice that weekend, and I decided I'd do what my grandfather told me to do. This is apply that philosophy.
Well, you can end this whole segment here at the Napoleon Hill Foundation. Why don't you do us a favor and tell our audience, I mean, of all the takeaways that you've had from this incredible journey, what's the biggest one that's made the biggest impact in your life?
That it's up to me. That if I'm going to change my life, it's going to be up to me.
That's right. Remember that. You literally could be just 3 feet from gold.
Hi, I'm Cabby Borders. You are watching Imagination TV. If you like what you're watching and want more, check out myimaginationtv.com. The site is filled with my free-to-watch videos and articles. Also, you can purchase and download audios, videos, and ebooks by the authors and speakers you were just watching. Our website gives you the best on-demand access to the world's most fascinating motivators, producers, educators, and authors. So check it out. See you after the break.
Hi, I'm Reid. I'm the creator of Reid's Ginger Brews. We use tons of fresh ginger roots, spices, fruit juices, and honey to make my ginger brews. Reid's Ginger Brews have been a top natural soda for years. People seem to love it.
I'm a huge ginger ale fan, but like,
Yeah, no, this is better because it's
this
real.
has got a kick.
It's just like a pop.
The ginger is real. That's good stuff.
Try Reid's Ginger Brews. You'll never drink another ginger ale again. Cheers.
Having the opportunity to sit with the people that have encouraged us and inspired us, one person really stuck out for me. And one person I wanted to make sure I had access to was the one and only Frank Stankiewicz. Now, those of you who don't know his name, you do know the industry he started. Put your hands together for the founder of the Make-A-Wish Foundation, Frank Stankiewicz. Come on up, Frank.
Thank you. Thank you. I tip my hat to you. Thank you. Thank you.
You were a police officer for how many years?
40 years.
40 years. You just retired.
Just retired.
As a detective.
Yes, homicide detective.
But did you ever think that you would have started one of the largest nonprofits the world's ever seen?
No.
No. and tell us real quick the story of how it came to be.
In 1980, I was a motorcycle officer, Arizona Highway Patrol. And at that time, the TV show Chips was very popular. We were told of a little 7-year-old boy named Chris. Chris had leukemia. Chris only had a couple weeks to live. And the only thing that got Chris through his days was watching Chips. They had arranged in his hospital room for a VCR so he could watch the programs over and over. He just loved Chips. And he told his mother, when I grow up, I'm going to be a Highway Patrol motorcycle officer. I was introduced to Chris, and he asked if we can do something special as doctors and his mom. Yes, we can. With the permission of our commanders, we set up a special day for Chris. He was picked up in our Highway Patrol helicopter at his hospital, flown to our headquarters building, and when they landed, I was standing by with my motorcycle. When they landed, I expect our paramedics to help this little boy out of the helicopter. Instead, here comes this 7-year-old bundle of energy just running over, high five, hi, I'm Chris. And he was so awed because our motorcycles, our uniforms outside of St. Arizona were exactly like Chips. As far as he was concerned, I was very red hair and very tan at the time, so I could have been Ponch and John, either one. But he was just fascinated by this. And this little wish of his was becoming true. And I'm watching him, and I knew he was very ill, but he's bouncing around like a typical 7-year-old. I'm looking at his mother, and she has just got tears in her eyes because she has her little boy back, her little 7-year-old boy having fun. Chris went on that day to become the first and only child to become an honorary highway patrolman to the day in the history of the Arizona Highway Patrol. We presented him with a badge, we presented him with a smoky hat, and he toured our armory. He just had a great day, and his doctor was with him. And in fact, he was having so much fun, so pumped up, the doctor told his mother, take him home. He doesn't have to go back to the hospital. Let him go home. And Chris went home that night. But we realized that we have now a highway patrolman. He has a hat, he has a badge, but doesn't have a uniform. We went to uniform shop in those days that were custom made. And we asked the seamstress, can you maybe we have this boy 7 years old, this high, this wide, can you make a uniform? They spent all night making a little uniform for Chris. The next morning, again, with permission of our commanders, I led a group out to his house, several motorcycles, squad cars, sirens going, you can imagine the neighbors, right? And Chris comes running out, and we hand him the uniform, and he is just ecstatic. He runs inside, gets it all dressed up, puts on a smoky hat, and he comes out, just look at me, I'm just proud as can be. But he came over to me, and he was fascinated by the wings that we wear, motorcycle officers, and he said, but how do I become a motorcycle officer like you and Ponch and John? And I was just saying, well, Chris, this is the testing we do, and we go da-da-da, and if only you had a motorcycle, we could test you right here. Chris was a step ahead of me. He ran in the house and came riding out with a little battery-operated motorcycle that his mother had got for him in place of a wheelchair. We set up traffic cones in the driveway, and he had a helmet that he put on, and in fact, he had put on what we call mucking boots. They were rubber boots that looked like our motorcycle boots, and very seriously went through these cones with his little motorcycle. He came over there and he said, did I pass? I said, yes, you did pass, Chris. Am I going to be a motorcycle officer? Yes, you are, Chris. And the wings, again, were custom ordered. They just couldn't buy them off the shelf. And again, he got to stay home that night. I called the jeweler, and the same thing. We've got this little boy. We need some wings. He spent all night casting those wings. The next morning, I get a call. The wings are ready. I went to pick them up. I get another call. Chris is in a hospital in a coma. He's not going to survive the day. Went to the hospital. His uniform is hanging right by the bed. Just as I pinned on the wings, Chris came out of the coma. He looked at me. He said, am I a motorcycle officer now? Yes, you are, Chris. He just started smiling and laughing. He started talking to his mom. He had the greatest couple of hours, and then he passed away. I always think maybe those wings helped carry him to heaven. We learned Chris was going to be buried in Illinois. I was asked if I would go back with another officer and give Chris a police funeral. We had lost a fellow officer, which we did. And en route, we were met by Illinois State Police, we were met by the county police, we were met by city police. We had a full procession for Chris. Chris was buried in uniform. His grave marker reads, Chris Gracious, Arizona Trooper. But coming back from Illinois, we had so much response, so much press coverage, and thinking about his mother, how happy she was. And I kept thinking, we let him make a wish, and we made it happen. Why can't we do that for other children? And right at that time, and this is 33 years ago, that's when the idea was born, the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Let's let them make a wish, and we're going to make it happen. Since that time, because of one little boy, that's now 300,000 children worldwide have received the wish. And when you get an average of 4 in a family, that's well over 1 million people who have been impacted just because of one little boy. Thank you. Thank you.
When things were the tightest, when things were rough, and why didn't you quit?
It never dawned on me to quit, and especially I had a coordinator that I hired to, or not hired, but volunteered to go to the hospitals and learn if there were other children. And every time I thought about quitting, because I'm still working full time. In fact, I'm working other jobs like most police officers have to do. And she would come back and she'd say, Frank, there's a 7-year-old boy that's in the hospital. He would be a perfect candidate. Frank, I just met this little girl. We've got to get this foundation going.
So when money started coming in to the foundation, there was some success going on. You decided never to take a penny. Now, it would have been very easy for you to draw a salary. It would be very easy for you to have dipped into that well. Why didn't you?
I had a job. I was a police officer. I had a job. And the people that started, again, working for us, but volunteers, I told them and our board members, we are not going to take any money. 100% of donations are going to go to this charity. I wanted it built on integrity. I wanted it built on character. And that group that I finally found, and it took a while to find those 4 other people, it all worked together.
Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Frank Stankiewicz.
Thank you. Thank you.